So today I wanted to talk to you about 5 effective ways on how you can minimize the physical and financial consequences of a negative black swan. And later on, I'll show you an effective strategy that can protect you from financial disasters like evictions, having to raise GoFundMe donations, or even having to ask for money from family or friends. My name is Sean Danta, and this channel is all about making smart money strategies simple and showing you self-motivating solutions that I've discovered through my own experiences. Now, for us to better understand the topic, let me explain to you what a black swan actually is. So Nazim Taleb, the author of The Black Swan, describes it as a rare event with significant consequences that cannot be predicted or calculated for. For example, in 2007, the Airbnb founders were struggling to pay their rent in San Francisco, but they caught a lucky break when a design conference was happening in their town and all the hotels were fully booked. So they sensed an opportunity, decided to rent out 3 air mattresses in their apartment, and offered homemade breakfast as an added perk. The idea was completely untested in the market, and to their surprise, they received 3 guests willing to pay for the experience, and it marked the beginning of Airbnb. And since then, it revolutionized the hospitality industry. It started off as a small idea to make ends meet, but turned into a global phenomenon and collected millions of travelers with unique accommodations worldwide. The Airbnb success shows us an example of a positive black swan event on a large scale, since the founders had no way of predicting the outcome on things. It turned out for the better after all by reaching the unexpected levels of growth that they sustained. In today's episode, we'll be focusing on a negative black swan to prepare us for the worst. The recent pandemic is a prime example of this because most of us could not predict that COVID would actually happen, nor did we know how dramatic the impact would be. Other negative black swans we can reflect on are the attacks of September 11, 2001 or the Indian Ocean tsunami of 2004. If any of those incidents were predicted, they would not have caused the damage that they did. Now, these were negative black swan events on a global scale. But what about the ones that appear in our everyday lives? Those are equally, if not more important, like a business closure, getting laid off, an accident, a terminal illness, or losing a family member and the consequences we face from it. Most times we only think of what we could have done better to reduce the impact after going through it. With that said, you may only need to experience one negative black swan to realize what you could have done better. But it can get worse, because if your first experience was so severe, it could put you in a position where there's no coming back from it. Let's take a guy like Kevin Hart, for example, who in 2009 gets involved in a pretty bad car accident and fractures the majority of his spine, which forces him into surgery. And here you have a guy who already has a smaller body frame, so you can only imagine how much that affected him. He comes out of surgery and the doctors are telling him that his back would have been snapped and he would have been permanently paralyzed if he did not maintain the shape that he was in. He put in years of physical work that saved him from losing his lifelong mobility. Even after surgery, it only took him 2 weeks to become mobile. So you can imagine how his life would have turned out if things went in the opposite direction. Could he continue to do stand-up comedy? Probably in a wheelchair. But let's say he was just a sales cashier or a barber, or was at a job that required him to stand. He would probably have lost that opportunity. This is why it's important to do everything we can to prevent impact from a negative black swan. Now, of course, there are situations where it's totally out of our control no matter how much we are prepared, and there isn't a magic pill that'll help us escape reality. But our primary focus here is to give ourselves the best opportunity to come out as resilient as possible and stronger than ever. So with that said, let's dive right into point number 1 of minimizing the physical effects of a negative black swan. Number 1 is regular exercise and a fitness routine. Physically, a key component to staying prepared is to be in your best shape at all times. Not only will this put you in a better position, but it can also improve your recovery time. This is important because not only do you want to avoid prolonging a potential illness or injury, but you also don't want to be out of work or away from the regular habits which prevent you from making an income for too long. The key is to reduce the longevity, and taking care of your body will only put you one step ahead. For example, going to the gym and following a regular routine is a great way to start. Hiring a personal trainer is a great option if you feel like you won't have the discipline to hold yourself accountable. If you're a homebody, you can definitely leverage a home workout schedule to get you into the routine. Once you start, stay consistent and give yourself goals to hit every month to make things more interesting and attainable. The second point to consider maintaining is a proper diet and nutrition. Your body is your vehicle, so you want to fuel it with the right amount of healthy foods and fluids. and of course, eating those meals at the most appropriate times. The world's most cited nutritionist, Dr. Walter Willett, has been following over 250,000 people since the 80s and was able to look at the long-term consequences of diet. He discovered that the food we put in our system, not only now but during our childhood, will affect us later in life. He encourages a healthy plant-based food diet with whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, as well as lean proteins. You can even take it a step further and study the blue zones diets. Now, blue zones are where people with the longest lifespan live, and we're talking people who are living past 100 years without health or bodily constraints. There's a guy named Dan Butner who visited these areas and discovered that they're getting about 95% of their food directly from a plant or a plant product, as well as leafy greens or spinach. Things like kale, beet, turnip, chard, and collards were also all included, and they also consumed daily fruit and olive oil. As for lean proteins, they consume meat no more than twice a week that was free from pesticides or hormones, with a minimized consumption of dairy products such as cheese, cream, and butter. If you want to know more about the Blue Zones diet, I'll go ahead and add some resources in the comments section below. The key here is to understand that adequate nutrition will only strengthen your immune system and support your recovery during challenging times. Point number 3 is managing stress and improving your mental wellness. You want to practice stress reduction techniques like meditation, yoga, or even deep breathing strategies. Mental wellness is closely linked to physical health, so it's important to manage your stress effectively. Improving this will help us become more alert and perform better in certain situations. It can help relieve your pain, enhance your immune system, reduce your stress, and delay the aging process. The more tolerant you are to stress, the more resilient you will be during a negative black swan. And number 4 is engaging in hot and cold therapy. When it comes to physical preparation, your recovery is a critical part of the process. An effective method to improve your body's resilience is through the use of hot and cold therapy. Personally, I've had noticeable benefits after integrating cold plunges into my routine last year. Not only have I noticed much quicker recovery times after intense workouts, but also enhanced sleep and reduced muscle soreness during the healing process. The science behind this has proven that cold plunges elevate your metabolism, especially when including it in your morning ritual. Implementing hot and cold therapy, particularly saunas and plunges, can have profound effects on reducing duration and severity of injuries and illnesses. For example, athletes who regularly engage in contrast baths that alternate between hot and cold water immersion have been found to have fewer injuries and faster recovery times compared to those who don't. It's been proven that preparing the body for the physical stress of surgery beforehand has led to reduced inflammation, improved blood circulation, and enhanced tissue healing, which breeds faster recovery and shorter hospital stays. By proactively integrating both hot and cold therapies in your routine, you're essentially priming your body to respond more effectively to unforeseen challenges. It's not just about managing existing injuries, but also boosting your body's defenses against future setbacks. So whether you're an athlete striving to optimize performance or someone seeking to safeguard your health, hot and cold therapy can be a powerful solution in your journey towards resilience and recovery. And number 5 is regular health checkups. Now, the best thing you can do for your health is schedule routine checkups with your doctor to stay on top of your health and be prepared for anything unexpected. This will help you identify early signs of an illness so that you're not running on limited time or forced to make any rush decisions. If your healthcare is anything like Canada's, then it's important to prioritize this. There is currently an inadequate number of physicians to effectively treat the influx of patients. Things have gotten so backdated that people are dealing with postponed surgery dates or treatments for their illnesses, or even losing their lives while waiting for timely care. As a result of this, a lot of people are forced to delay their recovery and ability to return to work, which has led to prolonged injuries and illnesses. A quicker route to take is an executive health assessment. If you haven't already heard of this, it's a paid service, but it gives you access to a full day of screening from physicians, nurses, dietitians, psychologists, and exercise physiologists. Choosing this route will help you shave off a lot of time since you've given access to all these doctors on the same day. During your time with them, they assess your health, screen for early signs of disease, and evaluate lifestyle behaviors. And once you've completed the assessment, you're provided with recommendations and action plans to perform at your best. An early detection of any potential health issues can make a big difference in your ability to cope with unexpected challenges. So doing your best to monitor your health regularly and avoid being rushed to an emergency last minute helps reduce the outcome of a negative black swan. Now let's move on to the financial preparation of a negative black swan, which is equally, if not more important. And the best way to think of this is as if you're building a house. You need to have a solid foundation brick by brick, and that should be the priority. If you try to skip that step, the house may hold up temporarily, but you'll catch yourself in shambles later on. With that said, let's start with the first step to building your foundation, which is starting and maintaining an emergency fund. The key here is to build an emergency fund with at least 3 to 6 months, and if you're able to save 1 year's worth of living expenses to provide more reliable financial cushioning. This can help you with essential costs when faced with a crisis like a job loss, a temporary injury, or an illness. Just as importantly, it can help you avoid relying on other forms of credit or loans that would turn into loads of debt. The last thing you want to do is be stuck with lifelong debt on a high interest rate and no income coming in to compensate for it. The other important part of your foundation is a well thought out emergency plan. This can be done through a customized will kit. You should meet with your family or close friends to discuss your values and avoid any disasters if things go south. It's important to review and emphasize what roles they should play during a major crisis which could potentially throw life off track. It would also help to assign responsibilities to each family member and plan to work together as a team. The last thing you want is any of your team members arguing or fighting over who does what, which will only elevate your stress and delay your recovery time during a crisis. Now, the second most important aspect of preparing for a financial crisis is to have an appropriate amount of insurance coverage. Picture an unforeseen event like a house fire, a car accident, or the loss of a loved one who was taking on the majority of the expenses. There's no denying that this can suddenly lead to a financial disaster for any dependents. Now that's where insurance plays an important role. It provides your dependents with enough compensation when you need it the most, so you can avoid depleting your savings, relying on GoFundMe, or even resorting to high interest credit during a time of a crisis. In today's economy, we're constantly witnessing online fundraising campaigns as a last resort for those caught off guard in these particular situations. But relying on such an uncertain remedy can leave you vulnerable and overwhelmed. Think about it. Expecting strangers to bail you out during a financial crisis is not only stressful, but unpredictable. It can also lead to unwanted family tensions or financial disputes over who pays for what. Now let's focus on a proactive strategy that shields you from a personal crisis that I've personally used myself. It's what you call a living benefit, and the solution is to provide you with financial support while you're still alive. These plans provide you with daily or lump sum payouts during a major accident or illness. For example, if you take a business owner that's the provider of a family of 4 and suddenly presented with a debilitating accident or an unexpected illness that puts him or her out of work for months. Without a safety net, the ability to pay regular expenses like a mortgage, rent, groceries, or medical bills can quickly become unpromising. This is where the living benefit becomes crucial by providing him with a daily financial payout during his recovery so that he can focus on recovery and his health without the added stress of a financial instability. If we take a look at the stats, in Canada, between 150,000 to 300,000 Canadians experience homelessness annually. The Canadian Medical Association Journal indicates that approximately 20% of Canadians struggle to afford their prescription medications, which often lead to financial strain and housing instability. On the other side of things, the National Alliance to End Homelessness reports that approximately 3.5 million people in the US experience homelessness every year. So here you have hundreds of thousands all the way into the millions of people facing homelessness, while unforeseen accidents or debilitating illnesses are a leading cause of it. Having a living benefit like this gives you the ability to keep up with essential expenses, including mortgage and rent payments. It prevents the threat of foreclosure or eviction, but also mitigates the risk of entering homelessness. In life, when you've given yourself a certain lifestyle through your hard work, the worst feeling is to have that taken away from you because you couldn't continue to keep up with the expenses, and a living benefit that pays out to you directly can help you upkeep those bills so that you can focus on your health. Now, once you set yourself up with adequate insurance coverage, you can move on to number 3, which is debt management. The point here is to reduce high interest debt, such as credit card balances, to avoid financial strain during a black swan. You want to do your best to minimize non-essential expenses and focus on paying your debt down to free up more of your income for savings and investments. Debt consolidation might be a good idea if you are able to acquire a lower interest rate. Number 4 is developing a budget and a financial plan. Now that you have a solid foundation, you want to be able to create a reliable plan that outlines your short and long-term financial goals. Creating a budget to track your expenses is a great way to start. Tracking both your fixed and variable expenses and creating a budget for them will put you ahead so that you know your limits each month and you stay on pace with your level of income. The key is to spend less than what you earn. Once your budgets are tracked, you can build a financial plan and begin diversifying your investments into different asset classes like stocks, bonds, or real estate. A well-diversified portfolio can help mitigate losses during economic downturns and reduce your overall risk. And finally, developing alternative income streams. A powerful strategy you can use to help you grow your financial foundation and prepare for a black swan is developing alternative sources of income. This way, if you can't work for any reason, you have a passive source of income continuing to bring in a revenue for you. Some examples of this could be renting out your property on Airbnb or through a regular lease, affiliate marketing, selling an online course, selling templates or worksheets, or even creating content. And so there you have it. Those are 5 essential physical and financial tips to stay ahead of a negative black swan. If you like this type of content, then go ahead and subscribe and comment below. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye.